Yeah.
Thank you. Dr. Scott Arthur.
Thank you, Chair, and what a privilege it is to serve under you today. And I want to thank the Honourable Member for Yeovil for introducing this debate alongside my honourable friend from Broxtowe as well. So as others have said before, I've noted, dyslexia affects around 10% of the UK population, with 4% experiencing severe dyslexia. Up to 80% of those children with the condition leave school without a diagnosis or the support they need to reach their full potential. So when I was at school, that dyslexia, I think, was less well understood, even less understood than it is just now. And I was one of those kids who took a long time to progress through English. It took me 3 times to just, some people might not be surprised to hear, pass my O-grade English, which is the equivalent of O-level English in Scotland. And it wasn't until I became a university lecturer where I encountered kids who had a proper diagnosis that I started to understand the condition and how it affected me, and developed coping strategies which enabled me to go on to try to sit my higher English evening college. I did succeed, but it wasn't a journey I entirely enjoyed. But being a university lecturer, I did meet students who had been really well supported at school, and that had helped them reach their full potential. I taught civil engineering, so it often attracted students with good mathematical skills, but perhaps not the best English skills. But also encountered students who hadn't been diagnosed at school, and it wasn't until they had the first set of exams that they started to be flagged up as needing extra support.
Will the Honourable Member give way?
Absolutely.
Thank the Honourable Member for giving way. Do you agree with me that if someone who's got dyslexia hasn't been identified and fails their English exam at GCSE level and then has to go to college and retake it, it then puts them off going further to university? I know for me it certainly did.
Absolutely, particularly if the condition is not understood. They just assume that, let's face it, they're not the smartest kid in the class, whereas often the opposite is true. Because I know through working with students with dyslexia in my job as a lecturer, often they were real problem solvers, we've heard about that, real systems thinkers, and able to see the bigger picture. But that was once they had a diagnosis, we were able to support them in their studies. And I have to say, I mean, I worked in the sector for a long time. I first started lecturing in the late 90s. And back then, among staff, when we discussed dyslexia, it was spectacularly uninformed debates we had about the condition, spectacularly uninformed. I can remember one of my colleagues who was very well-intentioned talking about his hope that the student could shake off dyslexia by the time they left university. If only that was possible, that lecturer would be world-renowned by now, but sadly not. Still a great person, though. In Edinburgh, we are lucky to have organisations like Healthcare in Mind stepping in to help parents secure a recognised diagnosis in Edinburgh South West so that their children can finally access the support they deserve. But receiving a diagnosis and the associated help should not be down to a postcode lottery and should come early enough in a child's life to allow them to adapt their style of learning and make the most of their school experience. In a recent survey by Dyslexia Scotland, it showed that dyslexia is still widely misunderstood. Many parents, and I dare say some teachers, still thinks it's something that children can grow out of, or it only affects boys, or it's about eyesight, or it's something that children can overcome if they just try harder. Absolutely.
It's not the case that people just become better at bluffing and just sort of finding coping strategies, but that is not really getting to the point of really dealing with dyslexia.
Absolutely, and I became quite good at avoiding being given the pen to write on the whiteboard at school. I became very good at that, and that was absolutely a coping strategy. But at the heart of these differences in diagnoses, as we've heard already, is a real inequality. And I do think all of us here from all parties are here to reduce inequality. And in focusing that lens on dyslexia makes absolute sense. And of course we know that dyslexia does affect everyone, and we do have a real duty to try to bring some justice to that. And I'm proud that researchers from Edinburgh University are leading groundbreaking work to help us better understand and identify dyslexia at an early stage. The recent study involving over 1.2 million people, so probably people from everyone's constituency here today, identified 36 new gene regions linked to dyslexia, confirming it as a neurodevelopmental brain difference. And I hope that confirmation of this biological basis can help reduce the stigma alongside fantastic campaigns like Dyslexia Scotland's Busting the Myths initiative. By challenging this stigma, equipping educators and supporting young people early, we can assure children with dyslexia are not left behind. So by understanding early intervention and proper support, we can transform thousands of young lives and help them reach their full potential throughout the UK. So I just want to end by talking about strategies, and I think the idea of agreeing to take forward a strategy today is a fantastic one, and I do thank my honourable friend, the member from Broxtowe, for proposing that. But as we heard from my honourable friend from Naheela Nyar, and apologies if I've pronounced that wrong, we have a strategy in Scotland. But when you compare what's happening in Scotland, where we have a strategy, to what's happening in England, where we don't have one, there's not a substantial difference. So if we are going to agree a strategy, I think we have to ensure it's properly funded and real accountability, both for ourselves, parents, and most particularly for young people, to make sure we get the maximum benefit from it. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair. A real pleasure and a privilege to serve under your chairship. Can I thank, first of all,